Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally, and this is Coach's Corner. And I do want to get this right. I'm with Denise Belil, and you were up in Canada, and we connected. Well, I found you on YouTube, so you have your own podcast, and you're doing some really great things because you have a very unique and special message. I think is the foundation of what you do, and so I would really like to take this time to find out more about that if we could. So first, but before everything you go to, you've got something in your hand that you can hold. Yes, I love it. It's all good. And that is your motto, your phrase. That I think I is what you live by.
It's my life. That's
Yeah.
that's who I am. It's all good.
So talk to me about that.
Yeah, of course. It's all good came from, like, first of all, I bought that cup just because I used to have a big cup like that and it broke, and I was traveling in the US, and then
Wait, how big is it?
it's huge. Look at my
My
head, right?
gosh.
I mean, it's huge. It's probably almost a liter or
A
a
liter,
quart,
yeah.
whatever
Okay.
you have in the US.
Uh-huh.
And but then I realized that I didn't buy it because of what's written on it, but then I realized that my life, that's how I lead my life. I always say it's all good. Because if something happened now, whoop, now it's in the past, right? Like
Okay.
like as soon as something happened, it's already in the past because I can't change it. Like if you stab your toe on the side of the bed, you can't, like if you hit your toes on the side of the bed,
Right.
you can't change that. It's past, it's behind you.
But it hurts.
It hurts. You acknowledge the hurt. You
Okay.
acknowledge that you can massage it, give it love, give it some healing energy, but you can't change it.
Okay.
You can't go back in time and not put your toes on the edge of the bed. So that's why for me, my way of thinking is, regardless of what happened in my life, I think it's all good, because why would I carry that hurts and that burden into my back every single day
Hmm.
just to remind myself that that was horrible a year ago?
Right.
Who cares? It was a year ago. I can't change it. I can learn from these experience, and now that's why I say it's all good. So what's the gift into that situation? What can I learn from that? How can I move forward knowing what I've known now from having that life experience? And how can I move forward into my life by growing? Because that's these, it's like a muscle, right? When you go to the gym and you build muscle, men's out there that goes and have big bicep and tricep and abs. In
Yeah.
order to build those muscle, you have to tear it, you have to hurt it, so the
Mhm.
hurt allow you to grow. It's the same in your life. The same as the muscle is the same in your life.
So I do I do exercise on a regular basis. And
We're wearing the same colors.
we are, but okay. And I know that when I exercise, so you are tearing it down, and you have to rest and eat right and sleep right and drink lots of water in order for the body to repair itself.
Mhm.
But you're talking, I think, more on an emotional, spiritual level, are you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because a lot of people experience crap, and I'm for whatever reason I'm using that word lately
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just coming up in conversation. People have experienced a lot of trauma, whatever that
Yeah.
means to them,
Mhm.
and it's hard, it's difficult
Yeah.
to overcome that. But so my first question would be, did that happen to you and you found a way to overcome it, or were you always this, it's all good because you were raised the right way? I'm
Mm.
curious.
No, I wasn't raised like that.
Okay.
I didn't come out of the mold like that. The Like, I was a baby of six, and plus I had two cousins that lived in my house, so there was like lots of us in the house, and I was the baby, and I was always like, my mom, her handful with all these kids, and I can understand. She would tell my sibling, take care of your daughter and your sister, and then my sister was like, yeah, I don't want to take care of her, like, and so I
Oh,
always felt rejected. And what I build out of that is a mechanism of defense, a mental defense mechanism that made me not a really nice person, because I
oh,
felt rejected. So then I know, you look at me now and say, how could have she,
yeah.
but I was nasty. I was a bully. I was being not nice to people and saying nasty things and destroying people and all that. But then after a while, I was like, well, that doesn't help me. I'm not happy, right? That doesn't make my life happy. And I was looking at myself, and then I discovered emotional intelligence in the mid 90s. And that changed my life. Like in the
Oh,
mid 90s, I was like, okay, why am I not happy? And then I was looking at what I was doing and the emotion I had and the emotion of others. Like I was like, oh, when I say that, that really hurt them. And they really get upset. And no wonder I don't have any friends, right? Like,
but
and
you,
then
so
I,
you were doing some reflection in the
yeah, I
90s.
did a lot of
Okay.
self-work. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I've done 40 years of meditation. So, but in 90s, in the mid 90s, for me, it was a big haha when I discovered emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And it really took me to the next level. And the number one thing that happened is I took full responsibilities for what happened to me. So now it's really rare. You will rarely hear me say it's not my fault, right? People say that all the time. A lot of people I know, they're like, it's not my fault. He made me angry. He,
Yeah.
he,
It's
he
we
didn't
have to
do my
we have to
dish
put
the way I
blame.
wanted. Like,
Yeah, we have to put blame on somebody else.
mm-mm.
Oh, but it's so easy to do that. So what's the mature or what's the right way to go about this?
Well, when you become 100% responsible is you say, okay, like let's say somebody say something and he upsets you,
Okay.
right? Like I would say something to you and I upset you. And then you say, she made me upset. But then in reality, you reacted a certain way to the words that I've said,
Hmm.
but you
Hmm.
had the choice to react or not. I could say the same words to someone beside you and they wouldn't react. So why don't they react and you do? Because you choose to react to the words that I say. So by becoming responsible when people do things to me or happen or the shit at the fan, can I say shit here? I did say
Yeah,
it
that's
twice.
fine.
I said it twice. And but when things happen, then you say, okay, like now that it goes with, it's the past now. I can't change it. And I can also, with emotional intelligence and that lately in the last couple of years, positive intelligence, I found that positive
Yeah, we
intelligence,
got to talk about that. Finish your sentence.
positive intelligence taught me to put like a force field around me that protects me from these negative emotions that are coming my way. I know you like, like robots and stuff. And for me, I feel like I'm living with a force field around me that whenever I have, if I'm emotionally stable, which I mostly is, when I have something negative happening, if you watch those Star Wars or Star Trek, it's like whole force fields, like you go like, whoa, we're at 90%, right? Because, and then they say, okay, we got to put more energy towards the force field, which means that you have to be more conscious of what's affecting you in order to, okay, this happened and it's upsetting. Yes. I'm sad. Yes. You can be sad and upset for a couple of minutes, but then you say, okay, do I want to carry that with me for the rest of the day, or the rest of the week, the rest of the year? No. What can I do about it? It's behind me. It's the past. It's all good. What have I learned from that experience? Or how can I move forward with that situation? And there's always a different ways to act. You just have to choose it.
So if this is the thing that is part of you, how are you sharing it? Because this is Coach's Corner. How are you sharing that value, that those experiences with others?
I mean, how can I teach people to do that too?
Exactly, please.
Yeah.
Can you?
So,
Can you?
yeah, of course. What I've learned from positive intelligence, let's go back to that,
Sure.
is that, again, like when we have a negative emotion, the negative emotion is a signal. It's a signal that something is upsetting and something that your thought pattern are telling you that it's upsetting. Because as I said, I could tell you something, you will get upset and this person wouldn't get upset. And
Right.
then they look at you and say, why are you upset? Right? It's
Right.
like, what's with you? But the reason is because it's your thought pattern. So your thought pattern are working in a certain way, are firing and going in a certain way that when you hear certain things or when you experience certain situation, you're reacting. So it's like action, reaction, action, reaction.
Mhm.
And what create that action reaction, an analogy of that, imagine a hot plate, right?
Okay.
On the stove, right?
Yep.
It's hot. You put your hand, go to put your hand closer. It's like, wow, that's hot.
Yeah.
So that action reaction is like, oh, that's hot. But what happens for the most people is that they say, oh my God, it's so hot. I can't believe how hot that plate is. Who left the stove on? Why is it still on? My hand is burning right now. And that's what's going on in your mind, right? I can't believe that he said that. Can you believe that? Like, he said these things to me. Oh, wow. I'm going to get back to him. I'm going to tell him these things back. And I'm going to, and then the brain is going and get upset and you stay. And it's like having your hand on a hot plate.
Mm.
So every time, so my tip would be that every time you have a negative emotion, imagine that you have your hand on a hot plate and you stay there.
Okay.
And then you'll say, oh, do I want to stay there? Right? Because that's what happened in your brain, because your thought pattern are engaging you into that negative emotion, and they're like putting oil on the fire. It's like, pfft.
That seems to me would take a while to learn and to adapt to, because it's so easy to react than to respond appropriately or train your brain to respond appropriately. So when you teach, coach, or work with people, how do they come to the point where they can get to
Yeah.
that point where they have that force field? I like that. They have that force
Yeah.
field around them.
Well, if you look at the way we act and react and are now,
Okay.
we didn't become who we are in a day.
Right.
Right? It's years of learning different patterns and behaviors and experiences that create the Keith that you are and the Denise that I am.
Right.
Like all our learned experiences and all that. So I tell my client, I said, don't expect to be cured in a day. That's not going to happen. But there's steps. There's different steps. You walk on the first step. You walk on the second step. So the first step is awareness. It's like, oh, ow, that's hot. Okay, my hand might get stuck there for a while, but I know now that I have that I'm in negative thinking.
Right.
So once you realize that action reaction, once you realize that you are there, then you say, oh, even if you had react, say, oh, that was upsetting. I was in a negative emotion. And that's the first step, because once you decide to work on yourself, then you would pay attention to these things. And as we work together, because you work on yourself, you decide to work on yourself, so you'll be more aware of these things. If I tell you, like, I remember when I first was looking to buy a Jeep years ago, right? And before I bought that Jeep, I would see all the Jeeps around me, because my awareness was towards looking at Jeeps, right? But somebody that drives a Ferrari, they don't give a crap about Jeeps, right? They see the other Ferraris. So that's the same thing with your emotion. Once you start having your awareness towards, okay, how am I reacting? Why am I reacting this way? Then you add another thing. Okay, what really upset me? And why am I upset? Sometimes it's doesn't even have to do with what you're saying. Is in the past, I might have reacted to someone that did that and I was really upset. And now because you say those words, I'm like, I'm back in the past, reliving that experience, and I blame you. Right.
So this seems to, just listening to you talk about their steps, somebody has to have strong mental cognitive ability, because it's really easy just to kind of react to things. It takes the responsibility off of us. But it sounds like you're really putting your clients, the people that you work with, in a space of, you need to take responsibility.
That's
Yeah.
why they pay me.
Well, that doesn't answer my question exactly. Of course they're going to pay you, but do you tell them this is going to be a lot of work? Like,
Well,
or are they planning that this is going to be a lot of work?
it's easier than it seems.
Okay.
It's easier than it seems. Like it's only, you have to learn. It's like learning, if you break an arm and then you're on a cast for a month, Well, you have to rebuild the muscle, right?
Right.
But it's not, it might take you another month to rebuild that muscle. I don't say it will take you 20 years to change your mindset, but when we have reaction, I'm going to go in a little scientific way. There's like, it's neurological connection in the brain that are very strong that makes us react a certain way. That's our go-to because it's an easy path. It's like the groove is there and it goes very easy.
Mm.
And when you want to change towards the positive, then you have to take your, at some places it's still winter, you have to take your shovel and shovel up the road, in order to get to your destination of positive thinking. And it takes a while. I mean, you have to create those neurons. And the more you put your energy towards what you want to create, you don't have to try erasing the other one. They will dismantle on their own because it's like the muscle in your arm. If you don't use it, it atrophies. The same thing with the negative thinking or the neurons that are linked in your brain that go to. You just have to slowly rebuild another connection, rebuild another path. And that's what we learn with positive intelligence. We have little exercise, little mindset exercise that you do towards the day, not just when you're upset. You practice your brain. You practice to do these little mindset exercise that says, okay, now I want to focus on a situation maybe in the past where I got upset. You don't have to be in the upset to practice it. It's okay. I remember being upset in that situation. And how would I want to react now? So then, whoops, you just did a little path in your new positive pathway. How do I choose to react if that happened again? How do I choose to do that? And as you do these little exercise towards the day, then it will help you faster than you think to build that connection, because that's where you put your energy in. Doesn't mean that you won't go back to the negative one, but you will slowly build your force field. It'll get stronger and the emotion won't affect you as much. And you will make different decisions that will lead you to a happier life.
So this sounds like neurolinguistic processing or programming.
In a way, but it's
Because
not.
I've talked with people who are who are certified coaches in that. So yes, no.
But the brain is the brain,
The
right?
brain is the brain. Yeah.
So it's just different technique. But yes, it's very similar, but it's
Okay.
not. It is very similar.
Okay.
I acknowledge that.
Okay, cool. Um, you're in Canada, but you coach people globally or just
Yeah, anyone that
locally?
speaks French and English.
Okay, as long as you speak French and English.
Mm.
How do people get in touch with you? How do people
Uh,
find you?
yeah, well, I'm everywhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, you know. I'm
Make
everywhere.
so you
Instagram.
making lots of video content?
Yeah, lots. I'm everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool.
Everything that's on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube. That's, that's where you found me. So it's youtube.com/@ Denise Billil.
Okay.
So
Well, I want to make sure all those contacts are in the description
yeah,
of the
we'll do
video.
that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can find you. So with the limited amount of time that we have left, somebody's struggling. So I'm going to give you a case study or just a hypothetical
Mm.
situation. Somebody's struggling and it's, and we'll take the whole, my parents were really bad to me, all that kind of stuff. And I could kind of relate to that because I had a crappy upbringing, but they deal with negative thoughts like I'm never
Mhm.
good enough
Mhm.
and I always, whatever that looks like. I'm never good enough for my spouse or the job but
You
they're
can never
married and
live
they've
up
got a
to
job.
people's expectation.
People's expectations. Yeah, that's exactly right. Can you train past that? Can you help somebody past that?
Yeah, of course. Anything that's related to the your mindset, the way you think, it can always be changed, but there's a caveat if you want to. Because
Well,
you can't, it's like the old saying, right? You can't bring a horse to the water, you can't force it to drink. So if somebody is willing to change and wants to make a difference in their own life and change the way their life is going,
mm,
they can change. So there's hope. You can change. You just have to really want it and be patient, right? Work towards it, like one step at a time. You didn't learn to walk in one day. You crawl and then you hang and then you were holding against someone and one day you took one step and you fell. And then you got back up because you say, hey, I love that stuff. And then you got back up, but you fall, you will fall. But then I'm working with my clients, and I have a person right now, like she's really upset with her ex. But then she knows now that whenever she get upset, not to get herself dragged down into the rabbit hole. She say, yeah, I know it's really upsetting me right now. Right. But she's aware of it. And now she's starting to build those connection of, I don't want to go there. I don't want to have these thoughts. I'm changing. And she's aware of that. Right. She doesn't get the big upset. She used to big tantrum and all that. She doesn't go there anymore. It takes time, but she knows, and she'll get better, and she continue to get better as we move forward, handling all the drama in each other's life, like, the horrible upbringing. And also for the past, I have an exercise, and I'm going to describe it really quickly, but we can, so forgiving yourself for things of the past, right? Because the premise beside that is, if you were to have a camera of something that happened in the past and film that, and now I'm telling you, okay, tell me your story of how it happened and what happened and how you feel about that event. You'll create a story. And then I'll show you the video of what actually happened. You say, oh no, that's not true. It was a lot worse, a lot more worse than that. Right? Because we made it, embellish it in a negative way. So if we're able to change that story in a negative way, why don't we change it in a positive way? So the exercise is write down everything you remember about one event. You can do that for several times, but for one event, write down, and piece of paper is very important. Pen and paper, write it down. Even if you take 10 pages, write it down, load it up on the paper. And now you look at it and say, okay, so if I had the choice, how would I wanted it to happen? And of course, on a positive mindset, right? Like in a positive way. How would I want that to happen? I would have liked that to happen, or this to happen. And then you write it down, another piece of paper, and you write it down. Write everything that how you would have loved it to happen, how you would have loved that outcome to show up, and that fight that you had with your father 20 years ago that you haven't talked to him since. How would you like it to be resolved? How would you like it to be today? And think positively, forgiveness. Now you write it down, Then you look at the negative one, you look at the positive one. And then you say, well, this is the story I want to have now, as opposed to the old one. So you go outside, you take the old one, go in a safe place, and you burn it.
Wow.
And then as you burn it, you thank that story for being with you for as long as it has been. But now that you don't need it anymore, I don't need that. I don't need you anymore. I want to create a new story. And I wrote that story of how I want things to have happened. And then you burn it and you thank it and you see it go in flame and all that, and say, thank you. And you thank it in a positive way. Be grateful for the story to have been there, because you are the person you are today. But now I want that story to be the reality. And if you need to, read that new story regularly. Every time you go back to that, no, this is my new way of thinking now, and reread that story. So that's reprogramming your brain towards the new story you want to have and eliminating the old one. And your life will change for that one situation.
Well, Denise, that was beautiful. And I think that it's very useful too. So I appreciate you giving our audience something that they can take away and actually do. And so with that, I want them to connect with you if they're having problems, concerns, or just filled with a lot of negativity, because we know that it's all good.
It's all good. And I can teach you how to build your force field.
I appreciate that. This has been another edition of Coach's Corner, and we'll see you next time. Take care.